Hello, this is Cary Klataske reading Becoming and Belonging, Supporting the Healthy Social Emotional Development of the Young Child. The Weekend Early Childhood Research Group has compiled this book and it has been edited by Holly Coteen Soule. We'll be reading the introduction and chapter 1. Introduction. Why now? The spiritual aliveness of the young child is a state of being that many adults spend the rest of their lives trying to find again. Those of us who are privileged to work with children know how precious their wide-open wonder at the world is. Our own souls are softened every day by the silvery drops of their fresh-as-morning view. We also know, only too keenly, how the open-hearted gesture of the young child can go unnoticed or be misunderstood. Despite the growing body of research about a child's critical developmental needs during these early years, the grown-up world doesn't always heed the signposts. Slow down, less is more, pay attention. Recent events have actually increased the pressure of outside influences on both children and families. COVID-19 upended our daily routines and made safety our primary focus for a long time. It also brought fear, uncertainty, and masks into our lives. The feeling of being safe took on new meaning during the pandemic. Distancing from friends had an isolating effect and brought soul stress to the children. Teachers responded creatively by moving most of their classrooms outdoors and rediscovering the essential elements of Waldorf childhood education. While the resulting accommodations were positive, it became clear nonetheless that having to cope with an ever-changing situation took its toll, not only on the children, but also on families and teachers. The reawakened social justice movement brought much-needed attention to untransformed areas of our shared social life and our Waldorf movement as well. Making any real progress in our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion requires honest self-evaluation and sincere, sustained efforts. Even though there has been some hopeful momentum, this is a task that we cannot put down. Continued progress will require our ongoing attention. Both of these issues have divided individuals and groups into ideologically opposed camps with little will to engage in civil discourse. This polarization has grown to include additional hot-button social issues such as abortion, LGBTQ rights, climate change, and cultural appropriation versus cultural appreciation. The recognition of the impacts of these issues on the social-emotional life of the young child prompted the Weekend Early Childhood Research Group to re-examine the essential aspects of Waldorf early childhood education. How can early childhood educators better support children to meet our current social challenges? How can we prepare them to meet the social challenges of the future? The first Waldorf school began in the chaotic social aftermath of World War I with a clear social mission. At the heart of Waldorf education was the hope that by cultivating independent thinking, compassion for others, and moral courage, the next generation could bring healing impulses to the many social problems of the early 1900s. There are now Waldorf schools in over 60 different countries. While the circumstances in each country vary, the need for social healing is as great as ever. In this collection of articles, we look at the principles and practices of Waldorf early childhood education in the light of the need for social and emotional healing. We want to inspire authentic enthusiasm in ourselves for life that allows all children to feel a sense of trust and safety in our Waldorf communities. We want to help children develop a deep reservoir of resilience in these tumultuous times. We want to cultivate faith in the goodness of humanity that will allow us all to meet the future with the courage of our convictions. Here are the chapter summaries. 1. The landscape of social-emotional development in the first 7 years. In this first chapter, we will survey specific aspects of the processes of becoming and belonging for the young child. We look at the importance of the primary relationship between the baby and the parent or caregiver, and the significant influences of family and cultural life on the child's growing social-emotional capacities. We explore the role of empathy in our social emotional development and in our culture. How do the principles of Waldorf early childhood education support the social emotional needs of the young child and offer healing impulses to the larger social world that we all live in and create together? Relationship, Anchor and Sail, Chapter 2. In this chapter, we focus on the central role of relationships in social life. We look at the qualities of relationships that can nurture every child's growing social capacities. How can we become more present, attentive, attuned, and responsive? As we strive to fulfill our intention to nurture the young child, what matters is that we are steadfast in our relationships with parents and colleagues, as well as with the children in our care. Each of us weaves and is woven into a dynamic and complex web of relationships that affects the well-being of our children in our care. Conscious engagement in understanding what constitutes social health supports us all. Chapter 3. Beholding the Child. In this chapter, we illuminate the uniqueness of Waldorf pedagogy in what it is not a prescribed methodology, but rather a living process. We practice child observation with a general understanding of child development in view, but without standardized goals and measurements for individual children. We acknowledge the spiritual developmental wisdom that lives in the child and accompanies the child's creative unfolding. Chapter 4. Sensory development as the foundation for healthy social emotional life. In this chapter, the importance of healthy development of the 12 senses, as described by Rudolf Steiner, is explored in multiple ways. Each child spends the years from birth to 7 developing an experience of security, shelter, and comfort in the physical body through the 4 foundational senses of touch, life sense, well-being, self-movement, and balance. In a truly literal way, the health of each of these sensory systems lays the foundation for individual emotional health and a harmonious social life. Understanding this foundation, our awareness of the importance of the work we do with children through touch, movement, rhythm, and routine, challenging physical play, and sequential practical work greatly expands. Learning to read the signs of healthy or distressed senses opens up new doors to understanding challenging behaviors we see with children in our care. Chapter 5. Remembering Play. In this chapter, we look at how we can restore the healing power of play to children. Play flows like a river, subterranean at times, bursting forth to reveal a child's inner drive to make meaning and mirth in their world. Play is the purest expression of what it means to be a child. Waldorf educators have been long-standing advocates for play. Our classrooms are not play-deprived. While it is now even more apparent how critical play is for a child's mental health and well-being, it also is apparent that teachers need to think openly about their role in facilitating play for children. This chapter considers how we might remove the blockages and let the river of play flow freely into a wider, sustaining stream of life for the children in our care. What does it mean to facilitate play? How do environmental spaces and materials affect our creative thinking? How do adult perceptions of risk influence children's experiences of play? What can be amplified to help children return to the joyful flow of creative imaginative play? And finally, how does our own playfulness figure into all of this? Chapter 6. The Healing Power of Social Games. In this chapter, we explore how playing games in the early childhood classroom supports children in developing social skills. It also helps children playfully release stress and build healthy social habits. Introducing a variety of original games, traditional games, finger plays, and songs from around the world can help harmonize the social atmosphere of the whole class and also have a healing effect for the individual child. 7. Here I Am, Positive Identity Development for Every Child. In this chapter, we examine more deeply how a child forms a positive sense of self that includes the child's racial, ethnic, cultural, and gender identities. This self-identification process begins early, even before the baby's first steps. We need to understand how the school environment and actions of the teacher and caregivers significantly affect a child's emerging sense of self. How can we affirm with the dignity of each child and their contribution to the class? Consciously taking up anti-bias work is an essential aspect of social emotional health in our classrooms and school communities. The work of being together is heart work, a task of the highest order. It serves each of us and builds up the community that can hold us all, even in trying times. Chapter 8. Face to face, heart to heart, and full of imagination. Speech as the living bridge between the emerging self and the world. In this chapter, we explore language acquisition and how it is connected to social development. Children acquire language through imitation. They hunger for opportunities to experience the warmth and expressive qualities of face-to-face conversations. Supporting a child's growing ability to communicate begins with paying attention and responding to a child's nonverbal cues. The child's language development goes through several stages, from concrete to imaginative pictures to the dawn of abstract thinking. Children respond best to simple living pictures rather than lengthy intellectual explanations. Pauses allow children time to digest what has been said and to respond, and also the opportunity to become comfortable with silence. The capacity to listen to a child with true interest builds confidence and trust in the child. Another way that a child learns to trust is when the adult is true to their word. The healing deed. In this chapter, we look at the impact that early childhood teachers can have as healers. An understanding word or an empathetic deed can have a profound effect on children who are struggling. Sensing into a child's state of being and supportively accompanying the child can be life-affirming and life-strengthening. Healing moments can arise every day in the early childhood classroom when educators are attentive to those moments. They can make a difference in the lives of children and their families. Chapter 10. Soul Nutrition. In this chapter, we focus on our own health and healing. Our path of inner development may include finding ways to reduce the stresses of our current situation and replenish our forces. Biographical exercises and artistic activities are both rejuvenating. These activities and our inner exercises can also support our anti-bias work. A teacher, parent, or caregiver needs to fill the well so that thirsty children have water to drink. Chapter 11. The Chalice of Community. The Social Art of the Waldorf Early Childhood Teacher. In this chapter, we look at the ever-evolving community-building work of our children, their families, and our school communities. We wish to cultivate a sense of collaboration in all these groups. We want to expand our cultural awareness to enrich the experiences of children and families. How can we listen with new openness and work together as co-researchers on questions of mutual interest? Our work includes acknowledging and honoring the mutuality that binds us together in this place and time on behalf of the children. Chapter 12. Hope, a tonic for the future. This chapter is a testament to our joy in the work and our hope for the future of the children. Hope for the future calls us to actively cherish one another and create a sacred space around the children. This space requires honesty, transparency, authenticity, and respect for the autonomy of others. Cooperation beyond the limits of language, politics, and religion is possible when we are aspiring to create the beloved community. This work calls for persistent determination and willingness to stretch and widen the heart. The truth of love elevates us all and offers a vision of the world where everyone thrives.